Today's matchup. King's Own DragonX. Gen.G. Afrika Freaks. SK Telecom T1. KT Rolster. Gen.G Green Wings. The Fantastic Run. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to LCK Summer 2018. It's day 2, but day 1 here at OGN. I'm Atlas. This, of course, is Papa Smithy, and we've had a bit of a wardrobe change.
I'm in summer, Atlas, and of course, we're ditching the shirts, we're ditching the ties, we're going to go a bit more casual. We're just dressing how we hit the club.
Yeah, I feel like, how we hit the club,
This is our attire.
Yeah, exactly. And I normally just wear a white t-shirt underneath, and then I raid Elton John's closet for my jacket. Like, that's what I do. It's absolutely perfect. I like how mine is a little bit skewed, and yours is, like, absolutely even and completely fine. Why do you always get the better outfits, Papa, every time?
Once again, silk, by the way.
If only. But guys, we have got one hell of a day of League of Legends. I mean, yesterday we saw more like the bottom 4 teams, but now we've got everyone from the top plus Gen.G battling it out. And it's going to be pretty ludicrous considering what we saw yesterday as well. Papa, do you want to take us through what the LCK meta has turned out as?
I mean, I think a lot of people look at yesterday and think, oh, it's the tip of the iceberg. We haven't even seen the iceberg. We have no idea where things are going this season, and that is why it is so damn exciting. Looking over the tournament information, though, it's, as always, best of 3 all the way till the playoff round 1, and then best of 5s to close the season.
It's all the same, and of course, if you're having a look at that money thinking that, wow, that is a ridiculously large sum of money, you just take away 3 zeros, and that's approximately USD. So if you want to make sense of that, that is how it works, and it's going to be the same teams with 1 extra in Griffin. It's not going to be Kongdu Monster this time around. They just seem absent for summer. Most of them just want to go on holidays, apparently, and we've got Gen.G, which is formerly KSV, so still the same squad, and Hanwha Life Esports. Not Rocks Tigers anymore. They've got a massive, massive sponsor. And we saw them play yesterday, weren't able to close out the series against Griffin, unfortunately, but Game 1 certainly showed some dominance.
And with that full price, well, maybe you could buy half of the suits we're wearing today, Atlas, but it's really interesting, like you say, to have Hanwha involved in esports. They have never been around before, so Hanwha Life, the life insurance side, has come into things, so things are looking good. We're looking spiffy.
And our background's looking amazing as well. I mean, you were saying that it's a bit disco fever. I personally love it.
And we're also on the right sides. I'm wearing the reddish side, and we're on the reddish side. Red versus blue.
Yeah.
We're all about that one. We're not going to plug red versus blue, by the way. Sorry, Rooster Tooth. No free advertising for you.
Although you did say their name, so I guess they do get a bit of free advertising anyway.
That's the joke, Atlas. I know it's the first day. We did this in rehearsal 802 times. We've been here since yesterday. I actually went straight from the Gangnam Stadium to Sangam to prep that, and you've ruined it.
Yeah, we've been rehearsing for a very, very long time, guys. Absolutely. Certainly was.
Just read the prompter.
Yeah, no.
We don't have a prompter.
Yeah, we don't. But we've got one hell of a first match to start things off. And I'm very excited to see what KSV, now Gen.G, are going to be able to bring, because last time they faced off against King's Own, it was actually a victory for them.
First match of the season.
The last first match of the season.
Yes, the last first was the last time they faced off in similar circumstances. Speaking of our circumstances, we got the patch information. So we're on patch 8.11, everything enabled. That is the fun of today. Pyke enabled, but of course frequently banned yesterday. You see some of the buffs on the bottom of your screen. Certainly going to see plenty of the Yasuo.
Yeah, and a bit of a change to the Kha'Zix as well, the main one being the fact that he's not going to be slinking around the enemy jungle, never seen. That is the main one. The evolved ultimate now is going to give him a little bit more combat ability, though, I guess, but Kha'Zix not exactly a champion that we're expecting to see too much of. And these other buffs, I mean, the Steel Tempest buff for Yasuo, I feel like, was almost unnecessary, but I guess with the change to the Infinity Edge, things are a little bit different, given the fact that he is the only one that still builds that useless item.
Exactly. It's a Yasuo only, because he gets the 4 times crit multiplier, which honestly could have been 3.3 and been the same. Gets over 100. not so useful there, but we'll keep showing you things. Kai'Sa may have had her AP build slightly turned down in terms of base damage. We see a lot more AP Kai'Sa and AD Kai'Sa around the world and in solo queue. Ezreal nerfed, but still relevant to some degree. Maybe don't pick him into Mundo like we saw in yesterday's match by Hanwha Life Esports. But otherwise, Ezreal, Kai'Sa, Lucian, there are a couple of those pesky marksmen, but otherwise eradicated as a race.
And you're looking at the nerfs here as well. I mean, Graves and Taliyah stand out. They are both still incredibly strong, guys. I mean, what is it? A bit of base AD for Graves and some cooldown on his ultimate. That's not going to affect anything. And the Taliyah nerf, it's just, don't even look at it. She's still a ridiculous jungler.
On patch 8.11, remember, that's mostly the mid lane nerf, and then the rebalance has turned out to be jungle. There will be future changes on 8.12. We can go over new items. We won't see Storm Race, it's not that good, but we will see some Essence Reaver, hopefully. Remember, Banner of Command is hot fixed, but still available. Scheduled to be removed on patch 8.12. Imagine that's coming in a couple of weeks, but 40% damage reduction. So we'll be seeing it on the pesky Singed and others of the world.
It is still a struggle to take down, but it's not the 70% damage reduction, which was absolutely absurd before that. Essence Reaver is exciting, but I mean, we saw Lucian yesterday not even building it. We saw it sort of forgone, and I felt like Lucian was the example of the Essence Reaver abuse.
I think in marksman versus marksman lanes, you don't have to go for lifesteal as early, but because you're facing bruisers that can harass pretty decently pre-6, I think you can see why Blade the Ruin King is still a clean buy. The lifesteal is there. It is a bit cheaper on this patch, so I think Essence Reaver will slide in somewhere along the line, but we're still so early in the piece. We're still learning builds, picks, priorities. When it comes to runes, the Nimbus Cloak is definitely the one I have my eyes on. It's a very, very big pick on someone like Singed, who, of course, we already know is pretty strong in this present meta. A lot of other champions can use it kind of deceptively. That's a fun one to see. Nerfs down on Fleet Footwork, Ultimate Hunter, so that means, of course, that is a moved rune in many ways from the Sorcery Tree. Ultimate Hat no longer exists. Now, Ultimate Hunter over in the Domination Tree.
Yeah, so Domination getting a new one as well in Hail of Blades, new Keystone. I'm very excited about that, being a Mordekaiser main, and, you know, 1, 2, 3 boop with the Q sounds exciting. Otherwise, completely useless Keystone. It's not exactly the ones that you want to be using on almost anyone. In solo queue, I see a lot of Master Yi's using it, but I still don't think it's very good.
No, I think Conqueror does him just fine.
Yeah. Also feel like there is almost anything from the Precision trees.
I wonder how many Master Yi's we'll see today, whether it's on the ban list or, of course, available. Now, people are currently thinking ban Taric and Master Yi completely goes away. There are certain ways you can put things together. Speaking of people who we will see today, Fly will actually be in the roster for our opening game. Welcome back, Fly, who honestly has had quite the tour of LCK teams in his tenure. Debuted way back when, 2014, before the reign of Papa Smithy, back in the Monty Doa days, on the Jin Stealths. Joined Katie Rolster in 2016 after a year over in the LPL on Invictus Gaming and their sister team Young Glory. He was on his opponent today, Longzhu Gaming, last in the LCK, where he popped over for first challenger and then NALCS action, and now he's back.
Yeah, it's almost a triple rivalry that he can do here as well, given the fact that there's 3 LCK teams still in the LCK that he can go up against. But time on FlyQuest was a little bit disappointing. We'll see what he can do now back in the LCK and back in Korea and back on, hopefully, the Aurelion Souls and the Zillions and the silly stuff.
He's eclectic champion pool has kind of always been one of the calling cards of Fly. If you want someone who dodges lane through smart roams and the ability to hit those side lanes, that's what he's all about. Even his Twisted Fate could be considered today. Plenty of Twisted Fate play. Solo queue in Korean Challenger. We'll see what things happen, but it is nice to have back a real personality. Fly, you know, people have many different things to say about his skill level. He certainly has high highs, and he does have the ability to show new things. The one that's not reflected here that I'd love to see from him is his Talon. He is a famous Talon play.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. And what you need in this meta as well is to be able to throw even more curveballs so he can keep this meta even more exciting. But let's start on the other side of the Rift. It's going to be Kingzone, DragonX on your blue side to start off the day, and it's all the names that you know of, but Peanut not going to be starting. It's going to be Cuz back to the original roster here. BDD, Prey, and Gorilla going to be rounding out that roster with Khan starting, unlike what happened last time these two teams faced off in the first match of their season.
Your back-to-back LCK champions, but notably not your MSI champions, fell to Royal Never Give Up in the final of MSI, and thus, of course, have been largely maligned in the Korean community in the weeks since that tournament. They still have been such a force in Korea. They still are one of the favorites for LCK Summer. But they'll feel, honestly, I think every single member, if you ask them, that once again they have something to prove, even though they steamrolled LCK Spring 2018.
Yeah, they can't be all that happy about how things turned out. Still did make it to the finals, still did, of course, get taken down by RNG, but this is the King Zone that we still have to respect moving into summer. Their record was absolutely outstanding, locking down that first place almost earlier than we've ever seen it locked down. But on the other side of the rift, these are our world champions at the moment. Gen.G, formerly KSV, formerly Samsung Galaxy, when they were able to take that title. Not too much else has changed apart from fly in the mid lane like we illustrated earlier on.
Weird to have a second reintroduction of your world champions, but 3 name changes between the 2 squads for our double LCK champions and, of course, our world champions. Brown, notably the only world champion not playing this game. Ruler and Core JJ has spent the majority of the past week, and probably even longer than that, scrimming and also playing over in Hong Kong in those Asia Games qualifiers. Peanut does not see play because, notably, Kingzone would have just been practicing with Cuz in his interim while he was over in Hong Kong. A little bit difficult to recreate that sort of play if you're Gen.G. So where are Gen.G at, given that they don't have a sub-80 carry for Ruler on their active roster? Who knows where they're at, where their heads are at. They had a very disappointing spring season. Generation Gaming, we will of course refer to them by their abbreviation of Gen.G. How they can show themselves, because they'll want summer to be very different from spring.
Yeah, they certainly will. And I mean, it's not like Core JJ and Ruler can't practice anymore, but certainly the team coordination is going to be the problem. Having a look at the KDAs from last season, yeah, it's a house with a small red window, really.
Kingzone were kind of unparalleled when it comes to LCK teams. The only other like-for-like would be SK Telecom Summer 2015, Marin's last season, where they were equally dominant. They dropped 2 matches, the last of which to BBQ in the first round robin of Season Spring. And we look at the side of Gen.G, who came in with a lot of hype. I actually had them way up there in terms of expectations for spring, but even in a meta that seemed to suit them, really were not able to get it going. Cuvée, I think, one of the biggest fall-offs when it came to 2017 performance into 2018 performance. Ruler and Core JJ started the season brightly, but also faded alongside their teammates. So there's 5 people here hungry to rewrite their 2018 narrative so far, which honestly is one word: disappointment.
Yeah, well, it was exactly, we were toting this team as being the best at the beginning, the first 2 weeks
they look great.
Of spring. They looked absolutely phenomenal. And then things started to right themselves and Kingzone came out of their shell. And after that first loss they had against this exact squad, well, not exact squad, change in the mid lane, but still, Gen.G were able to take them down, as you can see on your screen. And normally, in the head-to-head, they've certainly got their number.
Exactly. You look at Worlds quarterfinal, the 3-0 that shocked the world over then Longzhou Gaming, the 2-0 to continue that dominance. By the time the second round robin came along, that's when Gen.G had really fallen away. KSV just weren't getting it done in the spring season, so there was no surprise that Kingzone was able to win. But that was a 2-1 and a pretty close one. It was the last match, I believe, of the season, or maybe second last match
it was,
for KSV at the time, and they were able to actually show a good performance. So historically, just like yesterday, we had the MVP squad that had now 6 in a row over BBQ. Now we have Gen.G, who historically have been favored over Kingzone.
Yeah, could technically be an Achilles heel situation, but you saw them in the booth. You saw Kingzone in the booth. Massive smiles. This is a team that you could expect took a little bit of an emotional hit after MSI,
Definitely.
but they certainly look like they've turned it around, at least in the booth, for all to see at the moment. We'll see whether they can carry that into the games as well. And we do want to highlight Cuvée because 300 games after this first one, and if they lose, he'll have exactly a 50% record.
Let's focus on the glass half full. Notice that is 300 games in the LCK, and you might say, aha, but other people have done it. Remember, that's LCK only. He debuted in the first game that Samsung Galaxy played in 2015 spring, never played in 2014 in the Champions era. In fact, Samsung Galaxy into KSV, into Gen.G have played 302 games since the first game of LCK Spring 2015, and he has played 299 of them. Helper played 3 games when he was on the roster, so this guy has been immovable. The only person who has survived from that 2015 relegation-bound spring squad all the way to now, and he's had little peaks when he has been ostensibly the best top laner in the world.
He has, and you know, you look at his Gnar performances, especially in clutch moments as well, the fact that he's evolved from that tank player to more of that carry player. But speaking of carry players, Khan, his opposite number in this particular matchup, gets a lot of firsts, and Cuvé's not looking like he has the stats to back up what we're talking about as far as his lineage.
But where's Khan going to be going in terms of champion pool this season? What's he going to be playing? It was notable in MSI that his lack of proficiency on the Ornn, a champion that's a go-to for basically everyone except Khan, was something that held back the team. They didn't have that safe blind pick. I've been able to talk to the squad, and they've told me, nope, no issues with the champion pool. He's going to be able to play all those sort of picks, but there's so many different schools of thought. Is he going to be in the Darius, the Quinn, or the tanks this season? We won't necessarily know just from game number 1. We'll send it to the fans. How you feeling? No surprise that Kingzone going to be favored.
Yeah, 80% as well over Gen.G, and it's just crazy to think that these are our world champions. You'd expect them to have a little bit more respect than this, but Kingzone have just been way too dominant over the first half of the year. Absolutely incredible so far, but we'll see whether they can do it as summer kicks off, because everything has changed. It's who has the best read on what to play at the moment. And remember, this is all of these teams' debuts today.
Seeing some words from the coach of Kingzone DragonX. They're going to try to revert to their initial mindset and strive to make good results. Notably, a very humble thing for a team that dominated 2018 spring to say. But honestly, they have a lot of favor to win back. It feels like they don't carry the favor they did when they won that LCK final in spring. First of 3 matches, a Super Wednesday guy here in the LCK. We have 4 Super Wednesdays where we play 3 best of 3 starting at 2 p.m. Korean Standard Time, and we send it over to Gen.G, who acknowledge their stumbles, but say they're going to reach the finals. And so far, it's been back-to-back World Finals, including a World Final victory for then Samsung Galaxy. They're going to be setting their sights on that Korean October date and the World Finals again.
It could be a very difficult task for Gen.G, though, because they've always been known as the grinders, the slow pushers. We're always just going to weather the storm in the early game and then come back at the end. Is that going to work on 8-11? I'm not entirely sure, Papa, because this is one of the quickest metas we've ever experienced.
We're throwing those expectations out the window. We don't have marksmen. We don't have expectations. We don't even know what's good and what's not. We've got a little inkling of where the priorities are, but it's a new day. We have our best teams playing today. A new meta could evolve in Kingzone versus Gen.G.
Yep, had a taste test yesterday, and of course, around the world, we've seen the metas start to evolve. But guys, our brand new champion select, as the bans are underway. Graves going to be taken off the board. No surprises there as Gen.G get rid of Taliyah.
2 jungle bans. If you're joining us, Taliyah now certainly a jungler. And Graves, of course, a favorite of Ambition for many, many moons. Was the first jungler he honestly looked comfortable on when he moved to that role. It was Graves and Rek'Sai a couple of years ago. Vladimir ban, largely a bot lane ban against Ruler. Of course, a flex pick to other roles, but recently the trend has been to that 80 carry or bot lane role, as we'll call it situationally. So far, it's just kind of power picks being banned. No Taric being banned noticeably, and that has been something, the Taric Yi, that was used to such a great degree by MVP, Yondu, and Ian yesterday, that you have to wonder who's going to blink first.
Well, and I feel like Camille is another one that they're going to be looking at. Both of our top laners, fantastic Camille players and certainly comfort picks, but Shen is going to be the one taken off the board. I love the Graves ban here by Kingzone, considering the fact that Fly has been spamming the hell out of Braum in solo queue at the moment as well. So that standard pickup as Lucian's going to be taken away.
And now it's about what's not banned. Camille and Taric both open.
Oh, and that on red side as well is genius. And that's going to be Zoe just locked in straight away.
Very interesting to see the Zoe priority over the things we mentioned. But again, today the best teams are playing, and they might have a different read on the meta than what we saw yesterday. First pick Zoe. There are, of course, answers to it. The LeBlanc, a famous one we saw from Rookie earlier this week in the LPL.
And that was disgusting.
Champion that Fly plays, but not necessarily as scary as Rookie. On a pick like that, you can also go for a roaming champion. Who knows, maybe Aurelion Sol. We'll see some play. Vision going to take his jungler first. Still expecting junglers in the first round. And the Skarner priority high for Gen.G.
Yeah, Skarner seems to have only gotten more priority since, but Lulu going to be considered once again, and we'll see where it is going to be going. We saw it bottom lane yesterday. We've seen it mid lane across the world. I mean, Rookie, like you were talking about before, he in fact played the Lulu to great effect over in the LPL.
Highly expected to be a mid lane pick. I think priority will be in mid. Does allow.
Not going to do the pilot from yesterday.
Probably not. I mean, if you have a Master Yi already locked in, then obviously just going for an extra knock-up is helpful. But the reason why I say mid lane is you amp up your 2v2 if you want to skirmish against something like what may be the Xin Zhao from Cuz. And a timer going to go down. Looks like it will be the Xin Zhao there.
And look at his smile as well. Cuz is super excited to get his Demacian Justice out.
He's definitely feeling good about it. And we probably do have right now already our mid-jungle duos. You have to like Zoe Xin Zhao if any of those skill shots hit from the zone.
Yeah. If you think about it, I mean, you get the Audacious Charge. I know it's not necessarily as much of a slow as it used to be, but you can land the bubbles and, oh my, am I going to get my first Mordekaiser present day 2 of the LCK? Yes, I am.
A nice cheer from the audience.
Hell yeah.
But where is the Mordekaiser going? Probably going to be a bot lane Mordekaiser.
Do you think Khan's going to be playing top? I have a feeling bot lane makes the most sense.
You say that, but the last person on Longzhu to play Mordekaiser is Khan in the top lane. He did play it, of course.
That's true.
Not so long ago.
And
now,
they won that game.
They did.
Easily.
They won most of their games, to
That
be
is
fair.
a very good point.
Most likely going to be that duo lane Mordekaiser. Now we get a Kog'Maw as well. Okay, Lulu Kog. We're going pretty old meta so far on the right side of the screen, but Gen.G can still throw a wrench in the works. Mostly been mid lane Mordekaiser to allow for a very farming jungle like a Shyvana to get ahead, but with Xin Zhao not having the same sort of hyperscaling ability
or
with
the
gold,
fast wave clear as well.
Probably going to be that bot lane Mordekaiser, but we're not giving any hard declarations anymore on patch 8.11. We just try to, you know, illustrate where we can, just right in the margins, but let the actual pick ban do the talking.
Wow, we haven't seen a Pyke ban just yet, Papa, and word on the street, Mordekaiser Pyke pretty busted as far as that combo is concerned.
Word on the street, though, both CoreJJ and Gorilla just been having a terrible time on Pyke. Gorilla, when I wrote down the notes, was 1 win, 11 losses in the last week.
No, don't worry though, I just checked it.
Oh, good.
He's 2-11 now.
Well, that's not so good. And 2-6 for CoreJJ. A lot of support say Pyke is strong, but obviously recency bias won't be there. CoreJJ and Gorilla, at least based on solo queue, waiting to see, because there still is a lot of flex nature. Almost every champion exists a flex pick. Speaking of flex picks, amusingly, Braum, also one of those. And you have mid lane Braum in other regions, played earlier today.
Yep.
So Ilbai casting a mid lane Braum game, so very real chance we might see it here. The Alistar, though, we know where he's going if it's locked in.
The Alistar Maud, absolutely fantastic lane. We were talking about this together, actually, and I was very excited about the Pyke Mordekaiser, but Gorilla, incredible Alistar player, and you think that this lane is probably better anyway.
Alistar with most of the melee bruises is best. Yasuo, Alistar, Mordekaiser, Alistar, very strong if they're willing to go all in. Now, if you lose your flashes early and the lane can be turned around, there is counterplay, but it seems like double melee going to be the choice for King's Own bot lane. We get the final confirmation here. What's Khan playing? Will it be the Mordekaiser against the expectations of the meta or something different?
Could just pick something flexible here. Darius could be locked in, and then they could flex the Maud to top and bot lane. Prey could play his hand at it, but Khan, this is definitely going into his hands. The Jace to debut summer.
And that is traditional Khan. If you're blind picking against someone who you know can be a strong laner and counter pick, why not Jace? Has always been his declaration, still undefeated for the 2018 season on the Jace. Be answered by the Orange, so Cuvée not mixing up, not going for the cannon or trying anything too crazy in the top side. Jace versus Orange, so we see some of the old, some of the new. Fly going to be jumping on Lulu for his first game back in the LCK.
But all of the King's Own and all of the Gen.G to take this one out as well. I mean, if there isn't sort of a team composition that represents both of these teams, I feel like these would be almost exactly it.
But does Gen.G's comp represent patch 8.11 when it's basically protect the Kog'Maw? Yeah. I understand we have one hyper carry for support metas. We had it on the first match of the season, but that's when you're getting extra golden experience with your jungle mid lane, cheating those experience curves and gold curves. This is very much old tradition, whereas the Mordekaiser might be able to roll lane. They might be able to just end this game before the scaling ever happens. And if we know one word to describe this season, some people would say Fiesta. I will just stick with the stock standard, Snowball.
Yeah, Snowball or just Chaos meta. feel like it's just all over the place potentially. And guys, I know you may have seen it. We might be having a little bit of a pause to start this one off, get ourselves back into lobbies, things like that. But means we have more time to discuss how this bottom lane is going to work, because it is all about the Cogmore for Gen.G. And what happens around the rest of the map? Does it mean that Kingzone just does their classic Kingzone thing and leaves Praying Gorilla on their own? They can weather the storm as best they can, and then we work on winning the top side?
Sadly, if you kind of put all the variables together, unfortunately we don't have it on the screen right now, but Jace priority over Ornn, very established, of course.
Yep.
Jace's lane presence. The 2v2 is won by the side of Kingzone as well, because it's going to be the Zoe and the Xin Zhao, compared to Skarner, who's more of the farm till level 6. And even the Mordekaiser, Alistar, unless it loses the flash defensively early, it could just be lane priority into snowball, into end. That is what we have seen in all bar one game in Korea, and basically every game elsewhere is, if you're winning at 15 minutes, best believe you're winning the match.
Yeah.
Tricky one for Gen.G to get over what seems like an outdated draft. However, if you know one thing about Protect the Cogmore, there's always that moment in time where the team fights seem to go the way of the little Void Monster.
Yeah, and there's also the ruler effect, because this guy can just have games where he hard carries as well. I mean, if you're going to put your eggs into any of the Gen.G baskets, it certainly is him. And looking at his solo queue, the guy still is destroying people. He's got a Tristana game. I mean, who even plays that champion anymore?
Abel did play one game of hybrid Tristana. He actually rushed a Rage Blade over in the Demacia Cup, so I have that one in my notes. But yeah, no one's really playing the Tristana. I take your point there.
Yeah. This was a Stormraiser one, the item that no one plays.
An
but
update,
guys,
that
yeah,
poor
we
little
do.
poor JJ having a bit of an audio issue.
It is. And so he was he had a bit of a client issue, actually, so unable to quite get in. So we are going to be getting into the game as soon as possible. Don't worry, guys. Same picks.
We're back.
We're absolutely
We just
fine.
wanted to show off our six
Man,
suits.
imagine if we had have taken our jackets off because it's a bit warm in here. We would have just looked like janitors or something.
That's
like
the
that.
Spo TV thing. Reveal yourself. We're not revealing ourselves. We're saying fully clothed. On
Yes,
the
well, certainly, as you can see, definitely, because we had no idea we were coming back on
And
camera.
of course, we can share, the OGN subtitle, which is the Fantastic Run. And of course, that's kind of going to be a duo thing of whoever goes on to make that fantastic run and win LCK Summer. And this also represents the 16th and final OGN broadcasted season of the LCK, formerly Champions, all the way back to Champions Spring 2012. The 16th season is now, and of course, we will be able to crown a victor of this season in a few months' time.
And it has been a fantastic run, as well as you can see some fans of Kingzone DragonX in the audience. Certainly lots of them. In fact, so many people making it out today. We thought that potentially it was going to be a bit of a problem with everyone voting today, things like that. There's a lot happening in Korea at the moment.
It's also just a bit of a firebed as well for the games, because remember, JJ and Ruler just getting back. Peanut, who is not starting game number 1, is just getting back. So scrims have been halted for basically our entire top 5, because one representative at least of every team in the top 5 from spring had been over at those Asia Games qualifiers. Still don't really have official results for those.
Yeah.
I asked Ruler how it went. He said pretty good. So I guess they won more than 50% of games, probably.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we saw some of the leaked results, and things looked like they were going kind of good.
I don't put any faith in leaks.
Well, I mean, just saying, if that's even going to point us in any direction, it seemed all right. Faker's Yasuo apparently doing some work. Hey.
We saw plenty of Yasuo yesterday. We'll see plenty of Yasuo moving forward. Faker himself playing later today. So again, just to explain the schedule, because we didn't really have a schedule graphic to open things up. Wednesdays until Rift Rivals, so 3 Wednesdays in a row, we will have 3 best of 3 starting at 2 p.m., which I think is, about 10 p.m. over in
10 p.m. over
LA,
in the
for
East Coast?
example. And of
East
course,
Coast, I think? Or is it West Coast?
I think East. We're not so good at North America. We're both Australian.
We're both Australian, so everything's upside down for us anyway. So.
Mate, it's early.
Yeah.
It's how we look at those GMTs.
I can do it in Australian time. It's just 2 hours before. So.
But you're not so good at maths. So what's 2 hours before?
Oh, no idea.
All right,
it's too hard. Can I have a different question?
No.
It's actually it's 2 hours after, so it's 4 p.m., isn't it? 4 p.m. start? No, it's actually
You're the
not.
one
It's
who's
a
doing
midday
this.
Start. I actually don't know.
Well, you've been busted already.
Yeah, busted already.
Oh.
It is actually really hard for me, though. I just don't know which direction to go. So I call my mom, and she's just definitely asleep. It's 4 p.m. It's 4 p.m. start.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Australian, yeah.
Eastern Standard Time.
I mean, honestly, it's also a difficult start for the players and to some degree the broadcasters when it comes to these Super Wednesdays, because we'll have, again, 3 now, 1 after Rift Rivals, but I think a little bit later in the season. The reason why I say that is we all know these players have pretty skewed sleep times because, of course, you see them playing solo queue between midnight and 3:30 a.m. often. So a 2 p.m. start is actually very early for esports. Esports morning is what we call those pesky hours before about 5 p.m.
Yeah, exactly. So an esports morning starts at the beginning of the PM. Approximately, something like that. But
Achilles knows a lot about that. He's watching, I'm sure.
He has the absolute best sleep schedule. I don't know what you're talking about. The guy just knows exactly how to eliminate as many daylight hours as possible.
Well, we can talk as much mess about him as we want because, of course,
exactly.
he's
Can't
not
say
on the
anything.
broadcast
Can't
today.
defend himself.
No.
He's probably in the Twitch chat, though, defending himself very angrily.
We'll mute him. Don't worry about it. Riot Games will sort it out.
We should probably look into that one. But yeah, we are making sure, don't worry, guys, there is work being done to get us into this game number 1. And QV's client is getting sorted out. Having a little spy down there in the booth. Everything's going okay as far as Kingzone is concerned. But underneath us is Gen.G, so we can't give you the visual update and paint the picture for you. But hopefully we are going to be back into that game, or into that game to start things off as soon as possible. Because, man, I've been champing at the bit. It's been way
Champing
too...
at the bit?
Is it champing? I've always thought it was champing at the bit.
It'd be chomping at the bit.
No, but that's what I thought, and then I read in a book that it's champing or something. Have I just really messed up the whole day?
I think you're so far 100% lose rate at the moment.
Oh man, sounds like my solo queue experience.
And BBQ.
And versus MVP. They can beat SKT. They can do other stuff.
It's a long season. You're right. It is a long season. Interestingly, because we do have the 3 best-of-3s today and 2 yesterday, we actually will have all teams playing once by the end of the second match day. Then we'll have a return of the teams from yesterday, tomorrow's matches. I know it sounds confusing, but that's just how the schedule's bearing out right now. It's also 6 days a week for the majority of the season. So used to be Tuesday through Thursday and then Saturday, Sunday. Now we have a Friday broadcast being brought to you first by SpoTV and later by OGN. So the majority of the season, 6 days a week. Plenty of Papa Smithy casting LCK.
One
Plenty
hell of a lot of Papa
Korean
Smithy.
League of Legends. We're very excited for all of it. And again, just from these pick and bans, you see they're not looking at yesterday super closely and aping what we saw there. The Taric is ignored. No Taric E. No Nunu Karthus. A bit of a different priority at Cogmore, which didn't seem like it was going to ever happen yesterday. By the end of today, do we have a full picture? Do we even have a first page of notes? Because I'm just trying to hold off on the notes largely. I'm just looking at solo queue trends right now because I'm not convinced any of our superstar coaches or even our smart players really know for sure where the meta's at.
Yeah, and I feel like there are a few things that are sort of rising to the surface. Camille's strength is certainly high. The level 2 is really strong, plus the flexibility of moving to different lanes. And Zoe has really come out as a prevalent pick. You don't need to worry about these sort of 2-champion combos that we've seen in the Karthus Nunu, in the Master Yi Taric, in the Braum Graves, things like that. Zoe just incredibly strong and reliable in that mid lane. So as far as like blind picks on blue side, I feel like the Camille and the Zoe are really standing out at the moment.
And I think the at the moment part is the part I kind of hang my hat on because I look at that draft and I say, Lulu can go a lot of places. A LeBlanc can answer the Zoe, and LeBlanc basically smashes Zoe out of the rift every time. Very little you can do, very little counterplay there, especially after the rework makes the poke even more reliable. So I think teams are still developing the full champion pools, and it's a struggle. You know, all these players, especially the bot laners, bless their hearts, playing ranged AD carries for years. You know, you think of someone like Ruler, right, who debuted in 2016 summer. He's only ever had to play one style of champion. Even some of the older tiered players, maybe they have more proficiency over, say, an outdated pick like Ashe for some metas, but still, ranged AD carries. Now suddenly, we're seeing yesterday where I thought Songyun versus Viper in our second match was the best illustration was Songyun. Excellent Vladimir in the laning phase. It came to his job in the late game, initiating fights in almost melee range as Vladimir. Couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Same story with Viper. Laning phase wasn't so good on these ranged or even just on these mages in general, and yet could team fight well. I feel there's a lot of cases where in almost every role, people are being pulled to their breaking point at what champions they have to master, and that means we just get kind of awkward early games or awkward early matches in the season where you just can't have everything mastered that you're required to play.
Yeah, and it looks at our players in a different light as well. It's adaptation and the ability to quickly change and find something new. I have a feeling that that's a large reason why Crown isn't playing today, because he was always this mastery player, and a lot of his champions aren't necessarily as relevant now, and he needs to be playing all of these new ones, all of this cheese that's been picked up, especially thrown into the mid lane. And I'm really excited to see what KT is going to do, because KT, I mean, Marta's already played support Lee Sin.
Sure.
They've already played AD carry
One-handed
Jace.
support Jace as well.
Yeah, like all of these things have happened. Like KT have been mixing it up in the bot lane forever. So I'm excited to see what they're going to be able to bring and what their take is, and whether Deft is, potentially just going to play, his Lucian that he was always very, very good at, or whether he's going to branch out and pick up something completely ridiculous as well.
And I'm kind of zooming out even further and thinking about the tendencies of a player like Deft on his normal champion pool, which is very good laner, very good attack spacing, very good at team fighting. And then you think, okay, but how does that apply to Mordekaiser? Like, if he has to play Mordekaiser, does it amplify his propensity to face check and get caught at different times in the game? It feels like it's a fun kind of thought experiment to look at the tendencies in very different kind of boxes that were required in the past, and then wonder and project how will they look with just an insane meta where your requirement can change. You might be Yasuo bot and have to split push. Suddenly you're split pushing in Season 8 after that was last in the meta at Season 2 with the Omu's Ghostblade Vayne. And then the next game, maybe you're on Vladimir and have to primary initiate. And then maybe you're just on Kog'Maw and have to be right at the back of a team fight. So your positioning changes. Your requirement at every point in the game may change, especially for these marksman AD carry players who have had to evolve. It's very fun to wonder. We're still early in the season. We'll eventually have tape and be able to know.
Yeah.
But right now we're wondering, and wondering can be the most fun part of the season.
Yeah, and that mindset change that you're talking about is so interesting to think about as well, given the fact that a lot of these players haven't needed to do anything like that. You can basically play the same champion over and over again. Look at Prey in the final. I mean, just Kai'Sa, everything's absolutely okay. And now he could be playing all sorts of different champions down there towards the bottom side. And then we'd have to look at different reasons of different ways to look at Prey and why he's good. And why is Prey being good? He's been fantastic at skill shots almost forever. Imagine double wizard bottom lane with him playing Brand or Syndra or something like that. Lux, yeah. You can throw skill shots on a lot of different champions. Even the Ryze that we've seen as rising as a popular pick. Oh, God, that was unintentional.
Another Max right there.
Yeah, a popular pick on the bottom side of the map anyway, and certainly something that you could expect Prey to be quite good at.
It's just been fun also to take a step back. A lot of reaction to yesterday's matches. First day of LCK. Lots of crazy stuff. We started with the double dodging lane, farm up the Master Yi, farm up the Karthus strategy. There's a lot of polarizing opinion. There's a lot of people who say, this is just rubbish. Like, this is not what I signed up for. Where's my ranged AD carry? Where's my very macro-focused game in the way that the game had to exist because the AD carries had to get a certain amount of items? And there are people who are saying, I love the diversity. This is great. It's fast. It's fun. And I understand both schools of thought, and I can understand why both sides can be both elated and super, super frustrated, because as a caster, there are certainly some things. Like rotations were definitely downplayed when it was Master Yi can just run at everyone and kill them. That first game was certainly just a bloodbath, amusing one. But the fun thing is that when you get to champ select thoughts, now we have these really interesting moments where it's, we took an early Vlad, now we know they can't take Yasuo bot lane, maybe we'll now have a Yasuo mid lane and a Vladimir bot lane. So it's a different kind of champ select choice rather than just kind of this previous picture of what a game looked like. And even in-game, a macro choice of, we'll teleport down our Darius, and then our AD carry or bot lane Vladimir can go top lane and pick up the farm, because of course Vlad can lane top lane much safer than Ashe or a previous meta AD carry, and you can do a rotation that way. There's still, early in the season, before the full picture is decided, a lot of nuance in the game. But if you're looking through it one lens, if you're looking through how was it in the past and what does it look like now, you can't really blame those people for saying, just all looks like madness.
Yeah, well, it kind of is a little bit of madness if you're looking just at the isolated situation of what happened in Game 1 yesterday.
When your mum came in and asked you to clean your room and you had your ordered chaos.
Yeah.
I think there is some order to the chaos in this meta. There is some stuff that is actually going to rise to the top and be meta strategies, even if it looks like madness.
Yeah, but there's a lot of volatility, and I like that you bring that up, because the draft, I feel, is so much more important now, because you can almost hard lose in the draft. I mean, that first game there was no answer to Yondu at all on that Master Yi. There was just no opportunity, and with so many flex picks, the mind games in the draft are so much more exciting. I mean, we've already seen that today. It's like, where was the Lulu going? We didn't know until that Braum was locked in. Like, there is a lot of things that certainly have to be taken into account, and a lot of these coaches are certainly going to be earning their keep in the booth. Of course, we have everything locked in here today, and it sounds like things may have been potentially sorted out. It's been a few minutes as far as that pause was concerned, but I'm really glad that we got to have a chat with you, OGN Legion. See who's going to be able to make the first move in the early game, because that is the all-important moment in this particular meta. Or will Gen.G just be able to weather the storm? We saw one of our first comeback victories yesterday with Griffin managing to come back against Humwell Life Esports.
I do think that will be very much far from the norm. I think it will be a lot of teams being able to close leads at 15 to 20 minutes. We're just relying on the same hope you guys are. No updates, but the music and the players being on the screen is usually a good indication that we'll get some League of Legos going on. We want to see that League of Legends. We have a lot to bring you. A maximum of 9 best of ones could happen among the 3 best of 3s today. We got the all clear, so I think it's video game time.
It is certainly video game time, Papa Smithy. These, just to refresh your memory, guys,
it was a while ago.
The team comps. It was a while ago, about 20 minutes ago or something like that. Gen.G with a very Gen.G comp and Kingzone with a super Kingzone comp. Exactly what we wanted to debut LCK 2018 Summer on OGN. Of course, Spo had it yesterday. 2 fantastic series, and hopefully we can do the same thing here today. Kingzone and Gen.G to start us off.
I do get worried about Gen.G. You see priority in top, a winning 2v2, and Mordekaiser Alistar that can, of course, be shut down with a gank, but Skarner not necessarily the best to be sending on such a mission. This could definitely be 8.11 Snowball versus an outdated Protect the Kog'Maw comp, unless Gen.G can just defy expectation and get that Kog'Maw online.
Yeah, they need to create a bunker with their side of the map, and now finally it's time to get onto the Rift for game number 1. Well, I mean, the representation as far as the fan vote online was concerned, it was definitely all in favor of Kingzone, but you heard the fans in the audience today, and it's pretty even. Both sides turning up. So far, a little bit of a topside invade theoretically here from Kingzone, but otherwise not too much to worry about.
Level 1s are very active in this meta, and they have an Alistar as well. So Alistar Sin can certainly mess up a Skarner if they get the invade down. Very important to know what people are starting, because invades onto Raptors and even Wolves have become increasingly common in the patch 8.11 meta. Waiting to see if we do see that late invade. We see the Spire taken, so there is, of course, at least one member revealed to the enemy team on the top side.
Yeah, I was actually interested about why that Spire was in fact taken, as Prey is going to be discovered here, and I have a feeling he'll have to flash, and he does so immediately. Doesn't waste any time. Braum's level 1, so strong, but Kingzone already capitalizing here as they move towards the red buff.
But still, we mentioned that one of the few ways that this game couldn't go to plan when it came to the early priority for Kingzone was losing summoners in the bot lane. The double melee lane is down a flash on the Mordekaiser. If you see Ambition come in from level 2, he can of course get the stun down and get in there and do some damage. So there is always the potential that things could happen. So a slight good news story for Gen.G, where they really need any help they can to get through what should be an oppressive early game from Kingzone.
Well, speaking of oppressive, it's already started here in the mid lane as welcome back, Fly. You've already taken half your health in damage. It does have that corrupting potion and should be A-okay. Kingzone have the double relic shield down here towards the bottom side, but Gen.G really doing this zone control to make sure that they can't utilize it to push out this wave, and Gorilla hit by the Winter's Bite, and Prey just taken down to half health for free.
They just can't go and put a W from the Mordekaiser on Alistar and walk up to the minions and get 4 auto executes like you would expect, because they have to respect the enemy has Braum and there is no flash on the Mordekaiser. So there will be lane control for Gen.G that they wouldn't necessarily been able to assume given the drafts that have come through.
Yeah. Well, Kingzone probably just looking for that level 2. Of course, Alistar basically useless until that point has been hit.
And Prey not able to build up any of the shield coming through from the Mordekaiser either. So he's actually taking relevant damage. He tries to get the level 2. He was out of experience range for one of the minions, while Gorilla is already level 2. Awkward stuff for Kingzone. Prey and Gorilla weren't necessarily as robust as expected at MSI, and were looking to play themselves into form with this Mordekaiser bot, first Mordekaiser bot lane we've seen in Korea. Ambition will be spotted on a ward, still trying to play around that bot lane.
Yeah. Will be getting himself down here, which means even more defensive play coming in from Kingzone, but the rest of the map is looking much better. Khan getting the shove onto Cuvee. They know exactly where the jungler is, so he can continue to do that very, very freely. 10 CS ahead. Things pretty even in the mid lane, but we know that BDD just trying to build up as much kill pressure as possible, and there aren't a lot of charges left on that corrupting potion for Fly.
Gorilla now level 3, so dive potential's much lower. In fact, speaking of dives, Ambition going to have CoreJJ move up. Very smart lane positioning from CoreJJ. Very clearly was saying, I will be the first one to any sort of skirmish here, and dissuading Gorilla from making any collapse onto the scorpion.
Yeah, and thankfully Prey now has that Scythe of Destruction, so it can clear out some of these minions from a little bit further range. Fly finally able to add things back here in the mid lane. BDD just wanting to shove as much as possible.
Top side going as you would expect on the best of surviving. Notably, there were moments where Khan could easily have picked Jace into Letme's Ornn back at MSI and chose not to, because Ornn is the most survivable of these top lane tanks that Jace usually has a happy time trying to shut down. Worth noting that there's been a change in AD itemization coming into this match, specifically around the armor penetration. Now we do have percentage total armor penetration coming out from the last Whisper line items the Lord Dominic's regard, and while the Giant Slayer is gone, can get a lot of armor penetration. Stacking is damage stacking clearly happening from BDD in the mid lane.
Yep, throwing the bubbles around, and BDD even picks up an Ignite as Cuz making his way down here towards the bottom side. Was running in pretty quickly, but didn't want to actually go for anything against all of the summoners available for Gen.G. And there was a Rift Scuttler, so probably wants to go and grab that one instead. In the mid lane, though, we do have Ambition just hunting around here as in goes Cuvee. Khan's in trouble. Doesn't have to flash. Will be able to get himself back there. Ambition not quite close enough to be able to get anything, but that was very close to first blood and not in the direction that we were expecting.
The item lead comes in.
The flash comes in. He gets booped back. And now Cuvee taking a lot of damage, but unable to get it. And that's actually just trading his flash for nothing. Remember, he'd already teleported back there as well. This could actually be huge for Khan.
And Khan, of course, doesn't have to do anything because he has enough mana for the hammer hit. He disengages, he gets away. Very important. And now, as an equally susceptible person to gank on the top side, if we do see Cuz making a visit up top.
Yeah, and Cuvee actually decides to go back to base as well. So if this gets shoved by Khan, he will have a lot of flexibility up there towards the top side. Not a lot of mana here on BDD. He hasn't been back to base just yet. Fly as well. He's absolutely fine. They're just trying to clear out these minions, get themselves the priority back where they can find it. Boots pickups for both of our bottom lane damage people.
Again, we have it easier than our Korean brethren. They have the turn 1 deal for the AD carry role, as we would usually call it, and it means range damage dealer, which of course doesn't apply to Mordekaiser at all.
No,
we can just say Mordekaiser bot, just like we used to with Ziggs bot, and get away with it. Yeah, the Merc treads just to stop there from being a CC chain and bot. Interesting to see when Cuz starts to invade, and we do see Trouble Bubbles over the wall and a Xin Zhao charging in, but so far, after the bot lane was kind of a weak point for Kingzone, with Prey's flash being down. Been more mooted than you'd expect from the Xin Zhao. Of course, has that reputation of getting in the enemy's face.
Well, yeah, in fact, all Winter's Bite not landing, and that means that Prey is able to escape. But otherwise, I have a feeling that could have just been another flash. But you can see Gorilla going for it. There's all of the buttons being pressed, and First Blood goes over to Cuz. CoreJJ might just fall down afterwards. They're going for it. They don't even care about the passive. It's the double kill for Cuz. They don't need Peanut. Cuz going off in the early game.
Beautifully decisive, and they chose their moment. They knew Bioarcane Barrage was down. They knew that Ruler would have been trained on getting auto attacks on the melee champions, and Ruler dies with both summoners available. Clinical stuff from Kingzone.
Yeah, and the Acathian Surprise just ignored. Landed onto 3 people. The most value you can get out of that passive. And speaking of value, first Turret Blood is going to go down as well.
We were just mentioning Xin Zhao not being active. Level 5, got a couple of scuttles. The bruisers come in, and this is why you love Alistair in the current meta when you're going a bruiser bot lane. He provides the engage. Nice decisive stuff from Gorilla. Enough damage to follow it up. The Rylai's on the way from Mordekaiser, and the snowball begins. poor little Kog'Maw doesn't have a bot lane turret anymore.
Yeah, this is an absolute disaster, and this is the level advantage that you get from Mordekaiser as well. I mean, we don't talk about it too much because Mord just hasn't been in the meta for all that long, but in the duo lane, given his passive, you get full experience even if somebody else is down there. Children of the Grave will come in before any ultimates come out of Gen.G at all. And now that timing is certainly there as they make their way up. So they're going to have an opportunity to stay aggressive down here as well, at least for a little while longer, until that ultimate comes in from CoreJJ.
I mean, Mordekaiser, to be fair, has all sorts of weird passives. He also has the W passive, which gives 75 movement speed when you have...
Yeah, running towards them.
...the AoE on. Alistair loves that. Means he can even have movement speed when his boots of mobility wears off after the initial CC, after getting into combat. Whether it's mid lane Mordekaiser to get a Shyvana jungle, another farming jungler going, or a bot lane
Dragon
Mordekaiser.
synergy.
Exactly, and it's just about dragons in general. Whether it's mid lane or bot lane, they would desperately like to add a Cloud Drake, and the Drake thrown into the mid lane, and then suddenly you have 2 turrets and a Drake dead. That's the sort of snowball that happens with the Mordekaiser bot lane.
Yeah, and you can see Prey just happily moving this minion wave up, and he'll have all of the time in the world with Gen.G having to go back to that inner turret. That will mean that this dragon should go down.
It's just a game primed for one team to look very sheepish and very silly. If the Mordekaiser died a couple of times, the first Drake never comes, they lose first turret themselves. Mordekaiser never comes online. The Kog'Maw comp certainly wins. But this is the more expected result in a meta where you can run Xin Zhao jungle. When it was the Alistair Mordekaiser, you get scenarios like this, where you're able to just walk up, take down the bot lane turret, and now the protect the Kog'Maw comp that we knew would take a long time to come online is in danger of being permanently offline.
Well, speaking about being offline, Cube certainly could be as well. The Ornhorn comes in, but I don't think he's going to survive this one. Good triple knock-up as Cuz gets the flash to go out, and the turret range. Absolutely perfect for him to survive.
Not a perfect dive, but a perfect result. They do get the kill. No one goes down. Reset of aggro happens at just the right time. Should be a second turret. Jace can do the heavy lifting there as well. Bad news keeps rolling on for Gen.G.
Yeah, like you say, another turret to come in. Khan might even just wait for this. Yep, cannon creep to fall down. Cube looking a little bit lost and dejected as that dive was just unfair. Khan's Jace continues to impress, but this is just a game from Kingzone where it looks like the composition is working out better than what Gen.G have been able to offer.
And you just have to start wondering. I know it seems early, and again, it could be turned, but this is going as we would expect, knowing the patch 8.11 meta. Is this because Ruler, CoreJJ, and Edgar were over in Hong Kong and focusing on other things? They have other analysts, Trace, of course, the most notable one. They have a lot of staff. It's very strange to see them go for something that is the definition of an old meta strategy.
Yeah. Well, CoreJJ was somehow hit by that Sleepy Trouble bubble. BDD's picked himself up and goes there in the mid lane as well, but that's going to be a back coming in from Fly. Cuz gets another Rift Scuttler. 4,000 gold is the lead. 2 turrets is just the advantage here for Kingzone, but how does Gen.G slow this game down? How does anyone slow the game down on 8.11?
When you have a very nice comp that can play around the weaknesses of Mordekaiser bot lane, because of course Mordekaiser, when it comes to team fights, isn't going to be quite as strong unless they can actually assault the front line. They've got great frontline damage. They have Zoe and Jace poke and pick for killing the first target. Then the Children of the Grave comes in. It's an outnumbered fight. This is the sort of comp where with the double range top and mid lane, they make up for some of the deficiencies in having a Mordekaiser bot lane. So the snowball that seems to be threatened, Atlas, I think it is certainly one that needs to be feared. Slowing down this team, it seems to be more about a step up from Kingzone and them taking their foot off the accelerator, rather than something that a comp like Gen.G's that honestly just needs time can really change.
Yeah, and Prey now has the tools that are required as well to find success on the Mordekaiser, with the Rylai's, with the Merc Treads as well, which is very important considering he is so susceptible to being CC'd and killed.
That is an early Black Cleaver. On to the Jace.
106 CS here as well, 133 in the mid lane. So for BDD, as Fly and himself have just been trading it back and forth.
Rylai's already complete on the Mordekaiser.
Well, Cuz just going 1v2. I have a feeling that even the Kog'Maw turning up is probably almost not enough to deter him, but he's going to say, it's our first game on stage, got to calm things down. Going to go for the all-in.
This is actually a farmed Mordekaiser compared to the LPL support Mordekaisers in the mid lane. So the Rylai's important thing to note there has always been the rush on the couple of years ago reworked Juggernaut Mordekaiser because the Dragon slows as well. It's a very big mechanic there, and in general, there's a bit more utility to the Mordekaiser.
Yep, and the Leandri's Torment as well will be procced by that Dragon if it does have the Rylai's on it as well. So just keep all of those clone synergies going on and everything is going to be fine.
Build from Fly is a very puzzling one. Actually working towards a Merylon. It's not double Magic Pen like we saw yesterday on our bot lane Vladimir from Sangyun. Maybe just the Oblivion Orb with the Merc Tread. So not going to be going for Banner of Command. That was a rush we saw yesterday on the Lulu, or the Rod of Ages Lulu we saw in the bot lane. Actually going to be the Oblivion Orb. When you think of healing being cut down, doesn't seem like oppressive healing either from the side of Kingzone. It's kind of a peculiar one. Maybe it's just as much power as early as possible for Fly, because otherwise this team doesn't really have the ability to bridge the gap and everyone goes for scaling.
Yeah, let's try and get some Magic Pen, just keep himself in this lane as best as possible. Prey does have a lot of healing, I guess, on the Mordekaiser, but is he going to be the priority when you've got Cuz doing so much damage? You've got Khan there and BDD as well being such a problem.
A lot is also kind of inverted commas compared to, say, a Lulu or Soraka and other things we've seen running around, so definitely not a required one like it is against a Vladimir.
I am certainly a Mordekaiser sympathizer.
I would say apologist, but sympathizer, you can call it that. The team is going for the gimmick top lane gank rush.
Well, they are going to get the knock-up. No, they're not. Good flash comes out from Khan. Gen.G will just sheepishly clear out some minions and lose their mid lane outer turret. The entire outer ring has gone as Khan looking to stop some backs on the top side and give them some extra time. The double tap from new and improved Shelly, who's been to the gym till this patch and has now been able to get so much more damage on these turrets at low health.
If you ever try to make a cross-map play against a Rift Herald and can't react quickly, you will get ultra punished. That 1500 minimum damage, whatever health she's at. They continue to see just no good place for Ula to stand. He's got no items, basically the Nunu from yesterday when it comes to trying to repel anything. They keep walking up, they keep growing, and sadly Gen.G making this emergency gank top. They already realized there was a lane wall, that's why they're going for the turret dive, but the flash is still up, the Jace is slippery. To say that Gen.G is making low percentage plays would be a compliment to their current playstyle.
Yeah, certainly an understatement. As BDD finished off that Luden's Echo like you were talking about, and Prey try and bait something where he can, but instead just decides to go for the shove. We'll be doing a lot of damage to these turrets as well with that Q. The Mace of Spades. And another Cloud Drake to come in. This is a team composition as well that's so complemented by Cloud Drakes.
I mean, honestly, it feels like every objective on the map that for right now Kingzone is taking for free really, really works for their comp. Mordekaiser benefits from Drakes more than anyone. Shyvana probably second on that particular mark.
Yep.
They keep pushing forward. They now already have so many turrets, long lanes for Jace to silkily smooth with the Khan's mechanics to just rain down hell on Cuvée or Ruler or whoever's side laning is great for them as well. The Drake, as you can see, is super damn annoying for them to clear, and it's a Merylon coming through from Fly, so it's not like she has the items to answer this with something like a Banner of Command minion. So they continue the full court press here to Kingzone, and they're just looking for some extra dots on their way to what seems like an inevitable victory already.
Yep. And it's difficult to say things like that, you know? You never want to say that a game is over before it's over, but now 17 minutes in, it comes back to what we were talking about before, reading the meta correctly and understanding what things work on this patch. And you're against Kingzone. They were already the early game gods.
It's one of those weird things where Gen.G could win this game. It's obviously a low percentage chance. It could happen. Yeah. I don't think the coach could ever look at the replay and say, yes, you know, like we got
this was a good idea.
Kingzone would have to make pretty colossal mistakes to make this a 50,000 gold game. Gen.G's at 25,000. They need 50,000 gold into their team comp to actually start winning these fights around the Cogmore.
Well, now Kingzone looking to try and steal away this red buff, and in fact, it looks like they're more considering just starting a fight if they can. It is going to be Ambition stealing back the red, so that's something that they can hang their hat on. But Khan, in the meantime, is just getting more damage on this inner turret, skipping between lanes to try and get as much as he can. Already so much farm ahead of Cuvée.
Build seems to be working towards maybe Yomu's Ghostblade to sidestep some ultimates. Could, of course, be the Duskblade as well, as you get the full damage. Nerf damage, but full damage on both the ranged and hammer hit now. after the changes to that item, but the Yomu's was an old favorite of his. We'll keep a close eye on the items from the Jace, because Khan has certainly changed many, many times. There was, of course, that brief moment with Mana Moon still happening on the Jace. BDD's damage, still pretty good.
Yeah, real silly. BDD with the Sork Boots and the Blasting One pickup since we last checked in on him. And we do have Haunting Guys coming down for Prey as well as a Stopwatch picked up. So looks like Zhonya's and Liandry's going to be the very standard next pickups. I personally would have loved to see a Hextech Gunblade. That's my favorite item on the Mordekaiser, but certainly extraordinarily expensive and not really going to be doing what they need to do because you're not going to be able to buy it in time, Kingzone. It's likely that you're going to either win this game or horrendously throw somehow.
Well, I know you very well to be a hipster when it comes to picks you like to see, Atlas. If you're a hipster in this meta, does that mean you want Marksman to come back?
Yeah, it means I play Caitlyn. That's me being a hipster. Oh,
it's going to be tricky for you to keep to your identity in this meta.
I know.
Because what was hipster before is now smack bang in the middle of that meta.
Well, it's exactly what Pulse felt as well. He's like, oh, I'm playing Alawi, and then everyone started playing Alawi, and now we've got this. It's very, very frustrating. But it does mean a lot of our information that we have is now relevant. Because when it's like, Mordekaiser's stats don't necessarily come into the game all that often, so I get pretty excited when I can talk about what Mord's doing.
Well, Mord really wants a Baron to really kind of round out the victory here. Infernal Drake will be spawning in a few minutes as well. Those neutrals are easier, and you might say, okay, but they haven't killed anyone.
But you can also take the dragon to kill the Baron, which is the most fun.
Which is true. That feels like a lore battle.
Yeah.
Do consider that we've talked about what Kingzone have, which is a lot of things, and obviously a big lead. Remember, they don't have a marksman, which means that killing those inner turrets, if it's not Jace split pushing, is proving a bit tricky for them. So the game has stalled a bit. And it is Gen.G getting access to gold that with shorter lanes, with other objectives take earlier, was impossible for them to pick up. So we always have to remember that in this new meta where there's new and innovative counter picks, where things are definitely flowing in different directions, there's always going to be a cost as things change, and a lack of range champions is going to halt some of the hopes to try and group and take down some turrets.
Well, and speaking of range champions as well, it looks like Ruler's going for Essence Reaver second on the Kog'Maw. Kog'Maw, a fantastic Essence Reaver abuser, making sure that you can keep that W up for as long as possible has always been the aim of the game, and the fact that his ultimate is on basically no cooldown. You're only waiting for the cooldown of the item itself. As Gorilla looking for the flank here. Can they find Ruler? No, they can't. Fantastic flash. Means that he can stay in safe position towards the backline, and the flash has to come in from Kaz. He's going to get knocked up as well, and that's going to be the first kill of the fight. Going over to Gen.G. Could this be the moment where things turn around? Ruler at Children of the Grave is not going to kill him there in the backline, and that is a big tool that now Kingzone do not have. BDD trying to be the hero, but nothing doing here as Khan. Oh, can he take him down? No, he can't. Too many shields and heals to come in, but he was so close to death.
The shield was actually late. He needed the heal to get away from 0 HP, and then the shield came in. So Fly, who needs to be a shield bot, but the Kog'Maw was late on that particular play. Kingzone will only know in hindsight if that was the moment, but certainly it was a missed one from them. They thought they had enough exclusive vision to pull off the trademark Atlas to flank, but with Ruler having his flash up, and this time his eyes wide open when it came to the potential of a cow in his face, they couldn't get the CC, they couldn't get the kill, and the advance of Kingzone that seemed inevitable has been stalled again.
Well, the next time they go for that, it's going to be way more difficult for Ruler to be able to do anything. There's no Tahm Kenshi to guarantee his safety. He does need that flash very, very much, as now you can see the position over the wall, knows that Gorilla doesn't have his flash. Kingzone do have opportunities to kill the Kog'Maw in the next fight.
Ruler comes in, not full health either, as Cuz is going to initiate.
Yeah, speaking of fighting, they're just going to go in right away. Ambition down below half health, has to flash to get himself out. The Void Ooze is phenomenal, and in goes the Trouble Bubble, but can't follow it up with the Paddle Star with that much range. BDD not going to go too far in.
That was some weird angles being shown on the screen, a bit out of context, but this does mean the Drake, the Infernal, all important, is going to be uncontested, and Atlas, the power player is not the Infernal Drake, that of course is permanent stats. It's Ruler, Fly, Ambition, and Core JJ all flashless. Now that Baron play, now the flank's looking tasty as BDD continues to rain down hell on Gen.G.
Yeah, just launches his way forward, and the Dragon is going to be taking on the Baron. Remember, guys, we want this to get to 35 minutes, so we have the Elder Dragon against the Baron, but this is the first battle, already half health, and it looks like Ambition will make his way in. No flash, yes, but does have the smite and full health, but it's not going to matter. It's just going to be the Baron going down, and now Kingzone trying to start this chaotic fight, but Gorilla so close to going down. JJ able to grab the kill, but it's all about this Kog'Maw able to do damage in the backline, but the Dragon doing so much work. The re-engage from Kingzone, and can they do it? BDD skipping around the fight, takes down the Ornn, and in goes Cuz, wants to get it, there it goes! And that is going to be the ace for Kingzone in the end.
Re-engage, smooth as you like from Kingzone. They wait out some of the status abilities, they turn, and they're able, despite having no AD carry, to make it work. We're gonna watch the replay. This was the Baron power play we mentioned with the flashes down. Rule is free hitting the start, and you baited into thinking maybe this is Kog'Maw online, but they're still emaciated. They don't have the gold to truly have the items to stick these sort of play. Prey walks in, everyone walks in. The moment you see an ultimate from Lulu used on an Ornn, the fight's gone to hell in a handbag. Nice pot shots at the end, nicely capitalized by Kingzone.
Yeah, and remember, it's more of a 6v5 at that situation as well, because Prey's Dragon was doing so much work right in the middle of that fight, and if you put the Harvester of Sorrows, the W, on the big monster, it's massive, and got so much healing back for the Mordekais. It almost gave him a second life in that fight.
That fight is in 15 minutes. That fight is in a different game where Ruler has more than just most of an Essence Reaver and a Rage Blade. Things can change, but itemization was not working for the side of Gen.G. The perfect fight in a different game. In that game, the Ardent Sensor that was just completed now at 24 minutes would have been online. Only a Marilla Nomicon and most of an Ardent Sensor from the Lulu. We already mentioned Kog'Maw's items. Item timing is just not working for Gen.G. Kingzone got the Baron they need to try to assault the base.
Yeah, and so much extra money on the solo lane is here from Kingzone. Does seem to be the storyline for this team so often. It's fantastic to see that they're coming back to form. And what did the coach say at the beginning? He said, our initial form in the last season when they were so dominant, it does look like a taste of that Kingzone as the siege is now on. Cuvée moving forward, but they haven't got too much poke down. It's all about Khan trying to land these shock blasts and the paddle stars to land as Ruler takes a lot of damage. Gorilla just throwing in the Hex Flash just to see whether he can find something on this cow. Half the health bar of this inhibitor turret is going to go as the paddle star. Can it be found onto Ambition, who was asleep for a little bit? And another shock blast is going to find the mark.
Okay, no shots from any champions though, so it's only the minions that have been assaulting that turret. We're zooming out to show you. Super minions finally hitting the base. That's why Kingzone is staunchly staying top. Xin Zhao actually left the minion wave to use the Baron buff to bring the minions in faster. This is the way if they want to take this tower.
Yeah, Khan often with these flanking maneuvers as well, as another shock blast will be available very soon. Ambition, he has to be careful. There's a headbutt, Pole Children in the grave. He's on the Kog'Maw, but he stays alive for the moment the shock blast was empowered and should be able to secure it as Rule is so close to falling. The flash from BDD eventually able to grab it as Inhibitor will go down next. JJ on a sliver of health and relegated to the fountain. This should be game. Kingzone just doing Kingzone things, but Gen.G will have to have a look.
They got a marksman. Rule is going to kill the base.
Well, we'll see whether they can do it. This is going to be the Nexus falling down, and yeah, the Ghost Monarch Kog'Maw is going to be able to add the extra autos. Finally, that was how they were going to do it. They were going to borrow it from the other team.
Exactly. Who needs a Kog'Maw from the start? Just get him when he's got the items later in the game is the choice coming through from Kingzone, DragonX. The Mordekaiser synergy, it's in the damn name. But beautifully done from them. BDD reigning in hell. Another great performance. The one person you would say walked away from MSI with his reputation amplified rather than downtrodden. Kingzone is smiling. Gen.G, they try to bring back the old meta, and honestly, it looked old. It looked a bit wilted. They need a new idea to get back in this series.
Yeah, that was a team composition that we could have seen, in the playoffs last season. And that was a very different League of Legends that they were playing. Hopefully they can turn things around, because we're expecting Gen.G to understand what's happening with this meta, because they brought Fly, and this guy was playing Rammus mid in solo queue. Like, come on, utilize that more of a sporadic play style, and we'll see whether we'll be able to find something from this squad. World champions, and we know that there is certainly more that can come from them, but Kingzone, DragonX, all class. We're going to have a look at some of the highlights, some of the replays here as in goes Gorilla. The R button pressed from Prey.
Ruler doesn't die, but he lives a long time doing no damage, and while he's living on his liver for ages and ages, the Children of the Grave, last bit of damage from BDD takes him down. And even though he didn't die instantly, it wasn't all walking to do max damage. That's just not the sort of game the Ruler was having.
Yeah, and it's also, it was pretty confusing to me that the Children of the Grave was still on there. That would have been the very last few seconds of that ultimate, but still able to get the Ghost, which did mean that the base was in tatters, but that doesn't really matter. This is going to be your damage graph, and my god, Khan. I mean, it does make sense. Damage to champions for a Jace, certainly a lot easier than the other players on his team, but you'd think Zoe would be able to get a little bit more. Khan's Jace is just so damn good.
Look, range versus melee, so he was doing a lot of assaulting in the laning phase. If this was post 15 minutes, I think BDD would have been the heavy benefactor of such a graph, but Kingzone bring in the new, they're able to take it down. So far, their marksman has not been working in Korea. Some success over in the LPL. But things need to retool. The meta has still not settled. The Kingzone bring the new, and the new works.
Yep. And 2 kills away from a perfect game for Kingzone as well as the dust settles. The beginning of that game, we saw that the laning phase was working for the bottom lane of Gen.G. We know that CoreJJ and Ruler are certainly fantastic players. But I think things have to change moving into game number 2. And maybe this is where the cheese comes out from Gen.G. Maybe they realize that they can't just play the same get behind the AD carry style this time. But guys, we're going to have a short break when we get back. Game number 2.